Have you ever wanted to build a theme park in Minecraft, but find that you can really only make roller coasters and log flumes? Well, that's not the case anymore. Nowadays, you can make actual rides like carousels, launch towers, ski lifts, and even complex dark rides. I built this fully functioning carnival last year on a server, and while I loved how all of these rides turned out, I didn't really like how I used the space. So after the server's 2-week Minecraft phase was over with, I returned back to my forever world with nothing but inspiration to build a theme park. I do want this project to be significantly more planned out than the carnival, so I took a picture of the landscape and took off to Microsoft Paint to make a plan. Here is what I came up with. We will only be focusing on the center section in today's video, with the remaining sections being tackled in follow-up videos. Let's get started on the construction. Our first ride today is a carousel. The last version of it was too small and its speed was too inconsistent, so I aimed to improve on both of those things in this version. Putting this ride right in the very center of the park is a very fitting spot. It also sits right on top of a natural hill too, which should give the riders a full view of their surroundings. After the main structure is built, we can get started with the redstone. We start with the ring of track at the top. The minecarts themselves aren't just any minecarts, but they're actually boat carts. You may notice that most of the powered rails are waterlogged. This is to provide that more consistent speed that I was looking for, as it actually slows the minecarts down. Minecarts park in one of 4 bays. The rail in front of that bay will switch directions when the ride starts and ends to make sure that the minecart's always going in the same direction. And moving on to the timer. The input line up top hooks into the copper bulb that is ultimately what controls the whole system. The bulb locks and unlocks this etho hopper clock, which powers the ride for 60 seconds. When the clock cycles, it sends a pulse back into that copper bulb, resetting the whole system. And the last step here is just to top off the ride with the roof. Before we can move on to the next ride, we do have some pathwork and terraforming to get out of the way. This time-lapse establishes a lot of the main entrance plaza. However, I don't get around to the entrance itself in this video, and that's just because I don't have a vision for it yet, so I'm waiting until that inspiration strikes to build that structure. The last thing I'm building here is the steakhouse, and this steakhouse is not only for decoration, but it is also a cow farm. The second ride we are going to be making today is a Skyscreamer, which is basically just a 300-foot tall chair swing. I had to get pretty creative with this one, but I found a pretty cool way to make it work. Every time I start on a new redstone contraption, I always start with the hardest part, because I don't want to find out later down the road that something isn't possible. So for this ride, that hardest part is the lift mechanic. So with the way that this ride works, each of these minecarts launches will be staggered, so that way they only launch one at a time. On their way back, the copper bulbs tell that minecart if that station is empty or not, so each minecart just goes into the next station. The next phase of the construction is the tower itself. I'm just doing a simple 4x4 tower, but I'm trying to make it look like a lattice frame structure with the alternating glass and concrete. I also didn't like the height, so I made it taller. And the lattice frame structure has whole glass blocks, so that way the minecarts don't get jostled around while they go up the bubble column. Going inside the tower, I filled these 2 diagonal columns of glass, leaving 2 opposing single block holes. One of those holes is empty, but the other houses the bubble column. The rest of the ride construction is honestly pretty similar to the carousel. We have a circular track, just high up in the air this time, and we also still have a hopper clock that turns itself off. The only new system here is a minecart catching system, which is really just pistons and a tripwire. Now all we have to do is some tidying up, putting a base layer down for riders to load, placing boats in the minecart, as well as placing carriages for the riders. After tweaking the timing of the ride, the launch sequence sets each rider carriage perfectly evenly spaced out at the top. When the hopper timer ends, this track here flips and each carriage gets sent down one at a time. Since you're riding in a boat, nobody takes fall damage, and you land back at the station. This is the ride that took me the longest to brainstorm, as I could never figure it out when building the carnival. I'm honestly pretty proud of what I came up with here. We start with the ride supports. For this ride, I'm focusing more on the actual ride experience, where we will have a few seats that ride the full circuit of the Ferris wheel instead of 50 evenly spaced out seats. I did try to roughly mimic the look with the concrete that you see in the wheel exterior here. The wheel can't just be floating, and it will need some spokes to support it. These do look a little ugly at the moment, however, that will be addressed in a few seconds. Instead of using actual lights here, I just used color glass on the outside of the frames to mimic carnival lights. In between all of the spokes, I fill the remainder of the space with a regular glass, so that way it looks mostly still see-through. After doing this, we are left with two even sides with no protrusions, which is important to how the ride will function. Taking a quick break from the ride construction to build out the plaza down below, this area required a bit of terraforming just to smooth things out, and I wanted to have another fountain. To make the ride function, we are again using track. With the track alternating as it goes up, it should create a sort of rocking motion, similar to a natural Ferris wheel, and the same thing on the downward side. Honestly, people like to complain about minecart speeds, but sometimes you just need that cart to go even slower. To make this ride go at the perfect speed, I decided to waterlog the entire track. So I forgot to record most of the redstone here, but here's pretty much how it works. There are 4 minecarts and you launch them all onto the track at the same time. They circle around the track, and again all return at the station at the same time. The only tricky part here was the ending. If we put a detector rail here to stop the ride, it will trigger at both the start and the end of the ride. The solution here is just to have a long pulse. When we start the ride, our input signal goes to this pulse extender here. Now, when the other minecarts go by, they have no impact on the copper bulb. By the time they've fully circled around, the pulse extender has fully reset, so now the detector rail can do its thing and stop the ride. You may notice I'm using chest boats here, and there's 2 main reasons for that. We want the player to sit on a rideable entity. If the player sits inside of the boat, they will override the lead and break it. The reason we can't use a normal boat with 2 pigs inside of it is because one of those pigs would clip inside of the wall and unalive itself. So before I can start on the station, I really wanted to get the Ferris Wheel Plaza into its final form, so that way it can kind of mold into the station. Over on this side here, you may notice I'm switching up the pathway a little bit. That's because we are entering a new section of the park, so I want the pathway to look different since the rides over here will kind of have a different vibe. But that section of the park won't really be covered in today's video. That will be saved for a later one. And the final thing that we have to do is make the station. I don't really know what I was going for here. I don't really think the mud makes a lot of sense. I might come back in here with some copper grates in the future or something like that. But it looks fine for now, so I'm gonna leave it. Overall, I'm very satisfied with how this turned out, and it looks awesome, both riding it and from the ground seeing the riders go around. Very, very satisfied with how this ride turned out, and it works on both sides as well, because we can have boats on both sides. This will be my most impressive ride so far. It's a heavily themed boat tour ride on a lake with pirate ships, a Kraken, and even a drop section. Before we can do anything here, we do have to get a little path work and terraforming out of the way. And now we're going to make a big lake bed for the ride to go into. We are going to leave it drained until the end of construction though, because there's a lot of redstone that will need waterproofing, and it will be easier to build all of that without the water. We will next work on the station. I made this to kind of look like a boathouse. There are two structures. The left is a station and the right is a gift shop that guests will be funneled through. So these slabs here are going to function as our track. We're using bottom slabs here so that way the top can be waterlogged, which won't sink any boats. Speaking of boats, before getting to the redstone, I wanted to test my hand at a pirate ship, as I've never actually made one before. Now getting back to the redstone, the ride works with, guess again, track. We're using the exact same concept as before, just in a very different way. This first go around here didn't really work because the lead did not have enough tension to it, so that boat didn't follow directly above that minecart. So I lowered the track here, and now we can see it works perfectly. You may notice that the boat stops here briefly. That's just to emphasize an island with some buried treasure that will be here in the future. Next up comes decorating the pirate ship. First the sails, then the belly. I added some cannons and some sleeping quarters down here for, the ship crew. The next thing is to add in this bubble column here, which is just to raise the boat onto the deck. Below that bubble column, we also need to raise our guiding minecart, so we have this catching system here, which is pretty much the same as on the top of the Skyscreamer. And now we're in the real underbelly of the ship. This is where the minecart catching system comes out of. Now we're using the lead minecart and guiding it all the way to the captain's quarters before we then walk the plank. You may notice I waterlogged the tracks here. That's that way we can slow the minecart down to get a better pace. If you're still using the happy gas to move mobs in this game, you should check this out. And now we move on to the big beast itself, the Kraken, or sometimes called the giant squid. I tried to make this thing pretty big so that way it would be pretty menacing to our riders. I also tried to make those eyes look pretty derpy just because that's how squids look in real life. Since we are making a squid instead of an octopus, we will have 6 arms. Here is the first arm, which is the latching arm. It holds the squid onto the ground and supports it. Before we build the other arms, I need to build something for reference. Another pirate ship. This one is both slanted and halved because the Kraken is attacking it. This one is kind of at an awkward angle, but you know, it's already built. I'm fine with it. Now we're working on the arms now that we have the ship for reference. At first I made that really small and dinky. It kind of looked dumb, but we resized it and fixed it. Most of the rest of these arms aren't really notable. I will also add that all of these button suction cups that I'm adding are a complete waste of time, as the water will get rid of them all. This last arm is my favorite though. I like how it kind of just pulls that ship to the side. The final arm here is reserved for the track. I forgot to record the rest of the construction of this arm, but you honestly didn't miss much. After going through the tentacle, the lead minecart will stop and stay still for a few seconds before falling down below. So we have to get back to the track at some point, so we have a little pause here once you enter the water after the plank, then you go into the Kraken. We have another minecart catching system here that catches the minecart and transfers you into the arm. Seeing this thing in action, I do eventually take some of that water out there to speed it up, just because that transition is a little slow after you get off of the plank, and I want the ride to flow a little better. But watching the ride here, this is so cool. I love watching it fall. We can't just have the minecart fall on top of the player, as both the ride vehicle and the guiding minecart need to each land on their own respective tracks. Now this blue concrete and track is very ugly. Just bear with me for a little bit. I do completely replace all of this and hide all of that track underground so you don't see any of it, but I do complete the ride with this section like this. In action, the boat leans against the pane and allows both entities to stay separated. Moving on from that section of the ride for just a second, we are going to focus on the very end lift, which again I forgot to record most of, but here are the final tweaks I made to it. The bubble column is a little janky, but it does work, so I'm not really going to change it. And this is how I am replacing the blue concrete, by putting everything underground. It looks so much better without all that blue gunk right there, I will say. So instead of the blue track above, the minecart will just fall past the player and land on a track beneath them. The track follows the same path as the blue concrete, linking back up with the end elevator. Seeing it in action is so cool, I love this. The ride itself is now done. We do need to add a glass chamber around the underground segment here, because if the boat happens to waterlog, the pig and the rider will get ejected. The blue glass between the ships is to form a crevice for the rider to fall into. Now that the glass is done, we are pretty much done with the entire ride. The last thing that we have to do is waterproofing. I need to cover up all of the track, all of the redstone, everything that doesn't need to be touched by water needs to get covered up before I add any of this water in. Filling up the lake was a huge project. It took me probably 4 or 5 hours in total to fill up the entire thing. A lot of work. And it turns out I haven't been to a coral reef in this world yet, so time to do so for the first time. I also wanted to have a base layer of seagrass around the lake bottom just to kind of liven it up. Already after adding a layer of this, it looks so much better. I also added some kelp around, but I don't really know if I got any of that in any of these shots here. I've never been to a coral reef in real life, so my only exposure is the ones I've rated in Minecraft, so I'm just going to recreate what I saw there. The last decorative touch that we have for this ride is the island, the first story element of the ride. And the very last redstone thing that we have is doing a bit of retrack work on the squid tentacle, just to make that transition a little bit more smooth. So let's ride the ride. The last ride of the video is more for looks than function, but it's still fully rideable. It's a gravity-powered classic wooden coaster. This will sit just behind the lake bed, so I have some terraforming to finish before I can start. This back hill is meant to look more like a man-made retaining wall that holds the lake in place, while this other side here is meant to blend in more of the landscape. This ride required so much wood that I had to build a tree farm, I had to upgrade that tree farm, and I had to ultimately just resort to mass deforestation because that was more efficient. And it's coaster time. I wanted to make this thing huge, so I went as high as a line with the slope of 1/2 could take me. I very much regret using stripped logs for the vertical supports because they created a lot of work. I also then decided to add another annoying build process by making the cross beams here out of stairs with trapdoors. Those stairs are also upside down, so that makes it so much easier. This ride layout is something you very commonly see on wooden coasters in real life. What I'm going for is called an out and back layout, where the ride will kind of wrap around the park. Both the outgoing and incoming sections of track will ride side by side throughout the entire layout. The second lift hill is much smaller than the first. It's just to give that minecart enough oomph to get it to the end. You may notice I did kind of break the plan here, and that's okay. The purpose of the plan was to just give me a rough idea of how I wanted to use the space. The coaster will look so much better in its current position where it kind of nestles the entire park. I got so fed up with the amount of wood that I needed to gather for this project that I resorted to terraforming to finish this project. The supports themselves are a bit mindless to make. I just had to power through it, honestly, and just make them as quickly as possible so that way I could get this all done. And thus completes the supports. Moving on to the ride entrance and pathing. Now, it wouldn't be a Minecraft theme park without a stand for Steve's Lava Chicken. And of course it is also a fully functional AFK chicken farm. As a reminder, this is survival, so no sense spending so much time in the area without a farm or two going. I have a playlist linked down below with full 360-degree POVs of all of these rides. That way you don't have to download a super large world download just to ride them. I've never really shared worlds before, and the size of my world has gotten a little out of hand due to distant horizons. Once I can figure out how to clean it up for easier sharing, I will also have that in the description. If you have any name suggestions for the park, please leave those down below because I have not really been able to come up with anything myself, so that will be much appreciated. I am overjoyed with how this park is turning out so far. It literally looks like something I would make in Planet Coaster. On top of that, the fact that every ride isn't just something to look at, but something you can fully ride gives actual purpose and life to the park. The next video in this series will cover the left third of the park. By the time I've finished editing, I've changed quite a bit from the plan in a really good way. Trust me, this will be really cool. Subscribing is always free and you're always welcome to unsubscribe, but that's the best way to make sure that you see the next video if you're interested in that. Thank you so much for watching, it really means a lot. Have a great rest of your day.